It's 13 minutes after 10 o'clock. Good morning, and I'm Dineo and here on ENC. Now, on today's issue, with Women's Month this week drawing to a close, we take a look at issues around women in leadership. We ask, among other things, what should be done to accelerate women's economic empowerment and their meaningful participation in organizational leadership. Commission for Employment Equity Commissioner Dr. Annelie Gildenhuys, UCT Council Chairperson Babalwa Ngonyama, the youngest MPL in the Gauteng Legislature Fasiha Hassan, and scientist and businesswoman Dineo Leoma are joining us now. Ladies, good morning and thank you very much for your time. I'm hoping up to now it's been a good Women's Month for you in your various roles, and congratulations to you, Ms. Ngonyama, on the appointment as the new chair of council at UCT, the first woman ever. But we'll come to you in a short while and just what that actually means. First up, Dr. Gildenhuys, the 20th Commission for Employment Annual Report has just been issued recently. We've seen it being covered in the media, including us here on ENC. It does not paint a pretty picture, particularly when it comes to gender movements.
That's correct. And I think what we are seeing across industries in South Africa from our annual reports and analysing it over time is that very real value judgment stereotype evident in the statistics and the representation. There can be but no other interpretation if you really look at it in terms of the progression of women, the training of women, the promotion, and the representation in itself. And so what I think we're starting to see very real, despite legislation, is the realities of socio-economic mobility, a woman's ability to move, and particularly black females, from where you find yourself at a level in society to making it to who's who in society, and the barriers there too. And of course, target setting always aims in affirmative action to try and eliminate that and to make that movement free of the race and the gender that you are. But there is no doubt that what we've seen is present.
Is this picture applicable to both the private and the public sectors?
In public sector, you would see that that has is much more positive, but there is a very big difference in the private sector, and it is evident that the private sector has not really understood, I think, the internal and external business case for gender diversity at all its levels. Professionally qualified seems to be getting better, but where we get to decision making and executive board level representation, you've given us the stats, and it doesn't reflect in the private sector.
Yeah. Ms. Ngonyama, as I said when we started a short while ago, congratulations for being elected as the new chair of council at University of Cape Town. I understand it's a very historic appointment because it's for the first time that UCT has a female chair of council. But you've also been in business. Formerly, you were CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Safika Holdings. You play a role in the private sector. You sit on a number of boards and audit committees. You've got a very illustrious career in corporate South Africa. When you hear that in 2020, the transformation, the gender parity, especially at the decision-making levels of organizations, is very slow, and we're not there yet. What do you think?
Thank you very much. It's just not looking good. I must say we have a lot to do and a long way to go. But I think during our time, we can do so much. It's mainly coming from the culture, which we need to focus on and change significantly. When you are a woman and you are walking into a corporate world, you are measured using a masculine eye, which is not right. So you are expected that you show those muscular powers, and you are expected not to be yourself in one way or the other. And as women, we certainly need to correct that. It is not easy, but it is very important to push back on the stereotypes. We need to fight the invisibility that comes with being a female and being black. And I must say, when we are black women in particular, we suffer in three ways, not just one. So in terms of class, you have a problem there. In terms of race, you have another problem, and in terms of gender. So yes, corporate South Africa has a lot to do. I don't know if you want me to cover what can be done.
No, not now, not yet. We'll come to that. We'll come to that, especially because you've touched on a number of things. You've touched on the issue of culture in organization. I would like to unpack that a little bit later, what can be done about that. And of course, the triple discrimination that you talk about for women, against women, class, race, and gender. But Dineo, let me bring you in here. When you hear I'll call it a seasoned business leader like Babalwa Ngonyama, who still sits on boards in corporate organizations, and you are forging your own leadership journey. I mean, I saw a report recently by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor that says Africa now is seeing more women entrepreneurs who are leading the way. You are not even 30 years old, from what I understand. You founded 3 innovative companies by yourselves in the biotechnology sphere. Is that why you went on your own, so you don't go through what women like Ms. Ngonyama are going through in corporate South Africa?
Partly, yes. So my background is actually in engineering, and I remember when I was still an undergraduate student, it was compulsory for us to go for vacation work. And I was at some point seconded to a mining company. And I remember I had to deal with so many cases of just, for example, sexual harassment, catcalling, and, all those sorts of negative experiences, which as a woman, you really begin to question yourself, would this be the kind of environment that you want to be in on a daily basis? You're here, you want to contribute your knowledge and your skills, but you're fighting other wars, which I really believe that you shouldn't be, as young women, we shouldn't be fighting. But I think also those experiences framed what it is that we are currently achieving at Cape Bio. So if we look at our organization, currently 67% of our workforce is actually run by women, and our top management, 75% of our team in top management is women-led. And I think part of the reason is because we've been very intentional about the empowerment of women in our organization. But not only that, so our CEO is male, but he's also very pro-woman empowerment and is extremely intentional about creating opportunities for women. And I think that's really contributed to just the positive work culture that we have. I mean, instances of inequality within our organization are almost unheard of. And I think it's just creating such a positive environment for both men and women to be able to thrive in this environment.
Yeah, I said in my intro at 10 o'clock when I started the program that we'll also find out about some pockets of excellence. It seems to me that Cape Biotechnology might be one of them, and what can be learned from it. We'll talk about that later on. But from a different sphere, from the political side of things, you'll all remember Fasiha Hassan as one of the leaders, one of the powerful voices of the hashtag Fees Must Fall movement from 2015 to 2017. And at 26 now, she's still the youngest member of the Gauteng provincial legislature. When you're hearing these women, Fasiha, talking, especially in corporate South African stuff, your experience in the political world in terms of gender equality, is it similar or different?
The truth, Bradan, and thanks for having us. Just a quick one. Shout out to the powerhouse of women that are on this interview. It's incredible. But I think the experience is very similar. And it speaks to the fact that there's a societal problem of patriarchy, of misogyny, of a lack of women representation. I think where it's a bit different is that in the public sector, there's a lot more scrutiny and there's a lot more you have to government. There's a government gazette about how much our people are paid. So it's easier for us to close the gender pay gap, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't mean that the public sector has gotten it right, or the political sector for that matter has gotten it right in terms of women representation. And on that, we do have quotas and we do have a high, in fact, I think we ranked in the top 10 of women legislators or women MPs all over the world. But that doesn't mean that we have successfully brought about women liberation or equality for women's rights. And that's the point that I want to make, that it's not enough to have women in the space. We need to ensure that women have a fundamental, meaningful role in decision making so that we can actually bring about that kind of change. So it's not just about having women in the space, it's about more than that. It's about the substantive power and the substantive ability that we have to change society, both in the public and the private sector.
Now, you, Fasiha, like Dineo, and I was very intentional by including women younger than 30, you are the future, and do you feel the pressure as a young MPL, not just from a youth perspective, but as a young black woman in the Gauteng legislature, that you really need to prove yourself?
Definitely. The intersection of being young and being women means that we have a particularly high expectation placed not just on ourselves, but I think from society onto us. And the truth of the matter is that if we fail and if we don't do well over this administration, it will be used as an excuse and as an example as to why women shouldn't be, and why young women in particular shouldn't be in the space. So, I was actually saying this to a group of young women recently, that as much as we have other women who've paved the way for us moving forward, the truth is we also have to pave the way for those who are behind us, for those who are going to come after us. And if you're intentional about building that space to be more pro-women and more open to women, I think we'll see some significant change. But Bradan, the truth is it's tough. You have to work twice as hard for half the credit, and it's a dog's world out there, to be honest. But the truth is there are so many women who are facing worse, and it's my job and other people's job just to ensure that we bring about some more positivity, so the woman who comes after me doesn't have to go through the same things I am.
We will talk about that after, because that's going to be in the next segment. Thank you very much, Fasiha. Thank you very much, Dineo. And thank you very much, Babalwa and Dr. Gildenhuys. Now, when we continue shortly, I just want to get a sense from you, what kind of factors do you think are holding back women leaders in all kinds of organizations? What kind of these factors? You've mentioned patriarchy, Fasiha, but is there more? And also, can we talk about those pockets of excellence and what we can learn from them? I think Cape Biotechnology of Dineo can share some lessons there. Stay with us.